Well, let's speak to political analyst Ross Feingold, who joins us now from Taipei. Ross, you've also been very active in the Republican Party in the United States. We'll come to that angle in Donald Trump's relationship with Boris Johnson in a moment. First of all, give us your impressions. What are the words that come to mind when you think Boris Johnson?
Well, he faces an enormous number of challenges for UK's foreign policy, not just dealing with Brexit, obviously dealing with President Trump and what kind of a relationship the UK and the United States will have in trade and security, the tensions with Iran, which are ongoing. And of course, speaking here from Asia, there are a number of issues with China, and the UK had previously announced its intentions to have a more active role in security issues in Asia. That's going to cost a lot of money. It remains to be seen whether parliamentarians or the broader British public are going to support that, and whether the new prime minister could put those earlier words into action by deploying more UK naval forces to this part of the world. So a very challenging environment. On the good side, he has experience as foreign minister. On the bad side, there was a lot of criticism about his tenure as foreign minister.
Yeah, in your particular part of Asia, the South China Sea is one of the big international issues. Moving slightly further west, when you come to the Middle East, do you see Boris Johnson as being more of a natural ally of Donald Trump's and the White House's policy towards Iran?
That may be his natural inclination, but the interesting thing there is, notwithstanding Brexit, and eventually the UK will leave the EU, it's going to happen regardless of what kind of deal they have, he's still going to face enormous pressure from European leaders to stick with the plan, with the JCPOA, not to go along with the United States in increasing tensions. Now, the Iranian government's not necessarily helping by detaining British ships or taking aggressive naval action against international or UK ships in the Gulf. But he will face enormous pressure not to follow the U.S. policy and to stick with a European policy. And we're going to have to watch how that plays out, because some of the European leaders are also in a period of great flux. Obviously, German leadership change is upcoming. The EU's leaders have just changed over, as your report discussed. But there will be a lot of pressure on Iran from both sides.
So what about the personal relationship that he could develop with Donald Trump? Both men seem to be cut from the same cloth, and the word they use about both of them is populist. How are they going to get along?
But it remains to be seen what that means for actual policy. So in a broader perspective, they're against multilateral organizations or multilateral trade agreements, arrangements like the EU. We could see where they have some common views. But remember, earlier in Trump's candidacy, if we go back 3-4 years ago, Mr. Johnson wasn't necessarily complimentary of Donald Trump as a presidential candidate or as a potential president. They've moved on from that. But beyond just saying we don't like the EU or the UN or multilateral trade organizations like the WTO, what does it really mean? I mean, can they achieve a bilateral trade agreement? Can they have a common security policy where the UK would spend as much money on defense as Donald Trump is going to ask? These things are very much unknowns, and we shouldn't just rely on the nice tweets that are coming from the White House to congratulate him on his new job as Prime Minister.
Ross, as always, really appreciate it. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us on TRT World. Ross Feingold in Taipei.